welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's largest platform for entrepreneurs. We bring you expert advice on how to make and manage your money right, how to invest right, how to hire right, innovation strategy, anything and everything to do with the life of an entrepreneur being covered right here on the show. I'm very excited to welcome a special guest here on the show who's at the cutting edge really of innovation. Virgin Hyperloop, Harj Dhaliwal of the company joining us in just a moment. We're also in conversation with Lendingkart on the show tonight. Harj, good having you here on the show today, talking to us about really the plans that you have for Virgin Hyperloop. And I want to start by talking about the fact that we haven't seen any new innovations as far as public transportation is concerned, really, in over 100 years. What is your long-term vision when it comes to changing the way things are done as far as transportation is concerned? I want to start there.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me on the show today. It's an absolute pleasure. Um, Let me just start off by saying that, we've been working in India for quite a while now. And we actually came into the subcontinent in Feb 17. And when we came, we had a vision. We had a very clear vision. And that vision was for a connected India. And that was to connect tier one cities um, in no more than an hour apart. And that vision is still alive and at the forefront of everything that we're doing right now with the government and with the states. So for us, we've not waned away from our vision. What we've been doing since then, however, is really focusing on technology development. In addition to that, yes, we have also worked very, very closely both with the government of India and also with the states like Maharashtra, like Karnataka and Bangalore International Airport, and also the state of Punjab.
The technology that goes into the entire Virgin Hyperloop, of course, is highly impressive, and I would really like for you to talk to us about that, and also about the opportunities for small businesses, for SMEs, when it comes to AI and tech in this industry.
We are packed with technology, and even 5 years ago, some of the technology we're using now wasn't available to us. And as technology like AI, robotics, machine learning, autonomous technologies develop, we are integrating those into a platform, in addition to space and aerospace engineering technologies as well. So there's a whole plethora of technologies bringing in. We've done a lot of work in India, and from our studies and from our work, we've worked out that 74% of components that we require, high-tech components that we require, could be sourced within India. Of that, 70% could be with Maharashtra where we're working. So there is a huge opportunity. It's not just about transportation. It is about a whole ecosystem that spins off from a brand new industry that we're creating. And that creates opportunities. It creates jobs. It enables technology and innovation to thrive. And we're here as a catalyst to do that.
You got the green light recently, Harj, as far as expansion in India is concerned. What are the opportunities and what are the challenges then for expansion here? And also, if you can give us a sense of, what some of your plans are in India.
Well, we've been very focused on what we're doing. When we came into India, we came with a vision for India, and that was the event that kicked off everything that we're doing. Um, we went out to the market. We went out to authorities, the government, states to understand what was needed. Not us envisioning what India needs, but what does India need from us? And we took that aboard, and from that, we were able to prioritize key areas that we believed our technology would add value. And from that, we very quickly emerged that the Mumbai Pune project was absolutely top of the priority. We also, worked out that Karnataka was also a very important state from technology, innovation, knowledge as well. And then we started to look at what happens in the north of India. So it's not just about one part of India. I mean, India is abundant with people. It's abundant with the need for technology like ours to connect, to enable industry to move much more effectively. And sustainability is a big part in what we do.
Both the Indian as well as the UAE governments very excited about the opportunities being presented by the Hyperloop. Really talk to us about how the partnership between both governments perhaps has really worked out for you at the company.
That's a fantastic question. Where are we working? We're working in the US, we're working in the UAE, we're working in India, and all those governments are now starting to start looking at how do you regulate, how do you support innovative technologies like ours? Because ultimately, regulation, safety, and governments have a big part to play in what we do. And what we don't want is for those processes which are absolutely critical to actually hold back progress. So it's a fantastic, I think, move by the government of India and Niti Aayog, where they announced 2 weeks ago that they are setting up a high empowered committee to start looking at technology like ours. I think it's an
Sure.
absolute credit to the government in the USA, where the Department of Transport has now set up the new emerging technologies, or new emerging transport technologies council to look at regulation. And the Director General of Mobility is now also set up a similar organization to start looking at regulations. So we are having an impact, and governments are coming together. That gives us and our investors a big vote of confidence that we're heading in the right direction.
I want to talk about the fact that you've recently announced that you conducted a test of your ultra fast transportation system with human passengers. What is that experience like?
It was a fantastic milestone for our company and for the team and the staff that were all involved. Because the most common question I ever get asked is, has anybody been in the Hyperloop? When will somebody go in the Hyperloop? And
Yeah.
that question has been there since I joined the business, and I'm sure it was there before I joined. And that test on the 8th of October was a culmination of a huge amount of work from our engineers, our scientists, technologists, materials engineers to come together and prove to the world that actually we are safe and people can get onto the Hyperloop. So for us, it was a very big boost, and shot in the arm, a big boost for our investors, but also to prove to the world that it actually is no longer just an experiment, that it actually will carry people.
When we're talking about transportation, one of the things that a lot of people do talk about is the impact on the environment. So, in terms of sustainable, a transportation system, in terms of sustainability, in terms of really keeping an eye on the environment, what are you doing at the company?
Thank you for that. I think when we consider transport and we actually then consider sustainability, the biggest polluter is actually trucks. And when we consider that commercial account for about 6% of traffic on our roads, but account for nearly 60 to 70% of greenhouse gas emissions, then I think there is a huge part for sustainable transportation systems like ours for the future. But what makes us sustainable? Well, very easily. When we move around on this planet, all we are doing is moving air. All we're trying to do when we're in a car or a train or a plane is push air out of the way so we can move forward efficiently. So in our system, we've created a vacuum. We've moved the air out already. That means we use very little energy to enable us to move forward at very high speeds. It means that we are 5 to 10 times more energy efficient than aviation, certainly short haul. We are between 40 to 50% more energy efficient a bullet train, but at twice the speed. So all of a sudden now you can see how energy efficient that system is once you've removed that biggest impediment of air around you.
Virgin Hyperloop was first revealed at GITEX 2019. Any plans on revisiting it this year? Any innovations that you could perhaps let us in on that we should be keeping an eye out for?
Yeah, we showcased our virtual pod last year. Well, it was a mock-up pod last year, and that was to give people first-hand experience of what transportation of the future is going to look like. And for us, it was a concept. Our technology continues to evolve, and it evolves at a rapid pace. And some of what we're now doing, I'm not even at liberty to talk, but I think some of the innovations that are coming out now are all to do with driving efficiency into our system, into our levitation, into our propulsion. into electric battery technology, when we start looking at the way the world is now moving, we are moving very much down that road. So the ability to be able to use solar energy, use battery energy, and to make it much more effective, much more efficient are some of the exciting things that are coming out of GITEX right now. And there's a lot of companies out there that we're in Dubai this week, which we've seen and I think have a huge potential to play in systems like ours as we develop moving forward.
Haj, my last question: what advice would you like to give an entrepreneur watching tonight's interview?
I think the advice I would give is that continue to believe those moonshots that we are all seeking are out there. And as long as you continue to believe, uh, then you will be successful. So don't give up is my advice to all those entrepreneurs out there. And you know, feel free to sort of keep fighting for those moonshots, keep going for those, but keep believing. That's the ultimate.
Haj, thanks for taking the time to join us on the show.
It's been a pleasure being on the show today, and thank you very much.
All right, I'll take a quick break. On that note, Lending Cart is on the other side. I'll be back in just a moment. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight in the hot seat is Lending Cart.
Harsh, thanks so much for joining us here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. And the last time that we had you speak to our viewers, that was on season 8, that was the previous season. You were sounding very optimistic. As we kick off today's interview, are things looking as optimistic in your industry?
Thank you, Sunanda, for having us here. It's a privilege to be part of this show. I think, like you asked us, Sunanda, I think we went through our consolidation phase of initial phase of COVID, where we decided we will have to take care of our employees or peers in the organization and then customers as well. During April, May, and June, we kind of realized that the business had almost come to a standstill, and well-being of our internal and external stakeholders was quite critical for us overall, right? I think post July, June, almost like July, August, September, we have been reaching out to our existing customers, new customers who've been coming on our platform, asking them how we can help them, what kind of facilities we can give them, what kind of money we can lend to them, how their businesses are doing. And we've seen a reasonable uptick in these months, right? Especially in September, October, November, we've seen reasonable uptick. And I think Diwali was a good time again for all the small businesses that we've been catering to. So let's see how the trend continues overall.
Fair enough. I was just reading a report that suggested that you've seen an almost 85% uptick when it comes to disbursements. That's been a really sort of a fantastic period during this time of COVID when a lot of businesses are struggling. Just talk to us about that. Do you expect perhaps that going into 2021, you will expect to see such an increase and such a continuation, really?
Yeah, thanks, Sunanda. I think what's happening is one good part about our business is that the demand is huge, quite huge, right? So a lot of people need money essentially for running their businesses, paying their expenses. And maybe in COVID times as well, it got difficult for them to go to a neighboring branch or a large financial institution, get money from them. While we being digital, they could easily reach out to us, connect with us, do the process and get money as well, right? That's one of the reasons why we've seen a lot of uptake in our businesses. I think one more thing that we've realized, Sunanda, is I think I personally kind of realized going into the COVID that this might be the biggest tipping point for digital businesses in India, right? Per se, a lot has always been said that in India, normally you require 2-3 things, right? Or in abroad as well, you require 2-3 things for digital businesses to succeed. One is infrastructure, right? In terms of low cost hardware, internet connectivity and everything. I think last few years, we've seen that grow tremendously in India. So the next important thing that was required was per capita income, right? That if the per capita income crosses a certain level, the customers go to digital and you get more digital businesses and transactions. I think this COVID has kind of shifted that for us rather than even being per per capita income not reaching that levels, people are now realizing that they need to order from home, take money and do things from home rather than going out, interacting with people, meeting and everything. So this could be a great boost for all the people who wanted to build digital businesses in India, including us for lending as well.
Sure.
Sunanda. So yeah, that's this. I think hopefully 21 we will continue this all this trend and build on it.
I noticed you've raised some funds during
Yeah.
the past couple of months. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So I think Sunanda, we are very grateful to our stakeholders and investors, right? They have always put trust and faith in us during COVID as well. I think we were privileged that we have international investors. So one of our large investors also has operations in China, right? Basically even in Wuhan, right? So I think the good part about us was while rest of the country was still figuring out or preparing, I think February itself we started having discussions with our board members where suggestions were made to us that this will soon come to India and you need to prepare for situations like China or developed economies of how it's happening over there in January, February as well. So in kind of March, the discussions happened among them and they asked me, do you want money for the company? I said no. Right. Then the lockdown happened in March and in everything. In April, they again asked me, do you want some money? I thought maybe this might be the time to have or use them and take some more money. And it was both prudent on our side to raise money and from their side to give as well, to give a comfort to the ecosystem that there is a very strong stakeholder or investors behind us to support the company in these times as well. So we kind of did this round in mid of May, Sunanda, and we raised this money.
Was the experience of raising money different from you having raised money or anyone else's experience before COVID? Essentially, how you're raising money, has that changed? Are investors looking at different things? Has the level of risk perhaps increased? Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. Sunanda, I think because it came from our existing investors, right, and they knew us for a reasonably long time, right? Our last round came in Series C, which came in 2018, right, and Series D1 came in 2019. So these investors have been with us all across. They know our businesses. They understand our businesses. I think from a person who's gone ahead and tried for a new round in this time, Sunanda, I think that might not have been too positive because the new investors obviously want to have a visibility on when COVID will end, how much will you need and everything. So that's a very different conversation to have in these times.
I want to go back to my earlier question in terms of the uptick that you've seen in lending. You've been speaking to the Chief Economic Advisor of India, K. Subramanian, and talking to him about the credit penetration. Credit penetration in India right now is only at about 50%, less than one third of what it is in our neighboring countries. Where's that gap? How's that going to be fixed? He says he told us that lending for India now is what needs to be done in the sense of lending at scale. How do you see that perhaps coming in?
Yes, I think what the Chief Economic Advisor suggested was very true. Lending for India rather than saying it's lending for Bharat, that has to be done in these times, right? Because the access to the urban class or the people situated in larger towns, they have access to banks, financial institutions where they can access money from them and everything.
Sure.
The Bharat part of India, right? The tier 3, 4, 5 cities where we have a lot of educated population, young entrepreneurs, tier 1 running their businesses, small businesses, they don't have access to money and infrastructure. But through fintech platforms, they get far more easy access to Sunanda. I think that's where the underserved market is, and we all need to solve for it. So I think the lending for Bharat will have to begin, and all of us will have to solve for that to make India credit rich overall.
Sure, fair enough. But even as we're talking about digital and the digital push, the lending, do you see that it's going to be a simplistic answer as to say that fintech and we have to have more fintech penetration? Is that really going to solve sort of the problem as we see?
No, I think what we need to build, like we were discussing, Sunanda, I suggested earlier that internet connectivity and hardware is already there, right?
Yeah.
So basically the infrastructure required for digital connectivity is already there. Now the infrastructure required for delivery of a service, right? If it's lending, then you need to basically originate the loans, evaluate the loans, and collect the loans from the customer, right? So this is the delivery of service, of a lending service. Now the infrastructure has to be built for that. And how do you do that in smaller towns in a digital fashion, right? And that's where people like us are creating infrastructure. I think a week, 10 days ago, we launched a platform called Lendingkart Together. Basically, what we have done is, Sunanda, we have basically created a platform where any of the existing financial institutions can come to us and integrate through APIs access our platforms and start lending money to these customers on our platform itself, right? And we can customize basically in terms of their requirements, credit needs, and everything, right? So
Sure.
that infrastructure was lacking, which we all are building. So that's where how a collaboration, symbiotic relationship between existing large lenders who cannot reach these smaller towns and players like us who have created infrastructure for delivering these services can work together and solve it, Sunanda.
NPA, if you look at it, Y on Y has jumped. NPAs as far as MSMEs go, 12 odd percent versus 11.4% last
Yeah.
year. Do you think that's purely a factor of the fact that we are, in the middle of COVID, in the middle of the pandemic, and therefore we've seen a spike? Any concerns?
Yeah, so and that's why I think, see, everyone is going through their own cycle, right? Like for large businesses or similarly mid-sized businesses like us as well, right? We went through times of April, May, June where we were not lending and we had people working from home and everything, right? These small businesses are also going through their own cycle. Sunanda, I'll be candid with you, 99.9% of our customers, right, basically want to pay the loan back, right? It's normally the belief that the small customer is not digital savvy, not integrity is not good, he does not want to give you money. Touchwood, Sunanda, we have lent more than 6,000 crores pan India, right? Overall, right? We've done 6,000 crore in 1,300 plus cities overall. We've evaluated 9 lakh applications for giving this 6,000 crore, 1 lakh loans outstanding out there. And we've had defaults less than 10 crores, right? Across our entire 6-year journey. So this is less than 0.2%, right? This clearly says that the people who take money from you want to give it back, Sunanda, right? So this entirely, basically, so idea is that people are going through their tough times, and I've been discussing with my stakeholders, I've been discussing with my team and everyone, is that this might not be a time to judge businesses and everything. This might be a time of, normally I tell my team to breathe, right? Relax and breathe, and this too shall pass. And maybe in 3 months, 6 months, when the COVID nears an end, we can start looking at things positively and go and build a business, right?
Okay, my last few questions. We're focusing a lot on saving right, investing right, and growing right with money here on the Leaders of Tomorrow in season 9. How should an entrepreneur utilize cash effectively? How should they, what should they really be looking at? 2 or 3 things that as way of advice that you could give them?
So most importantly, Sunanda, frugality is the key, right? I basically come from a business family where it's always taught to us that in business you have to be super frugal, right? Whatever luxuries you want to enjoy or everything you want to do, you do it through your personal money, right? So frugality is the key. Basically, in these times as well, every entrepreneur should assess what kind of risk is involved in his business, right? It might look tempting when the market, not many people are operating in the market, the demand is there and everything to go all out and work harder. But everybody needs to understand that if they sell goods right now and if they don't get the money back, then they are risking that, right? So one is frugality is going to be the key. If you have high overheads, reduce them. Secondly, you need to be prudent about how you want to grow, right?
Sure.
So what we as a team also term today is that the growth has to be prudent and profitable. You cannot grow for the sake of just growing. It has to be a profitable growth as well. So the entrepreneur should look at that as well. And entrepreneur should build for tough times as well, right? So I normally suggest to small businesses that we talk about that you should have a fund available with you for maybe a second pandemic or a second dose of corona or something like that. So these 3-4 things are critical overall, Nanda.
All right, Harsh, great having you here on the show. Take care.
Thank you, Sunanda. Thanks for having us here.
Completely out of time on this episode of Leaders of Tomorrow. If you have any feedback for us, our contact details up on your screens as we speak. Do let us know what you thought of today's interviews. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good night.